So in this video, I'll be answering some of your most pressing questions. If you haven't heard, I was recently in Quartzsite with some of my Patreons. It was a really good time getting to know them, putting people and faces to the interactions that I've been having with them. And then when we went over to the meetup with Carol from Glorious Life on Wheels and Dawn from Dawn of VanLife, there were a few others that met us there. I am looking forward to even more meetups in this next year. It will be fun to get to know even more of you, so I am looking forward to that a lot. So the first question that I got was, how do you keep your van cool during the summer when you need to be away from it for a few hours? And the same goes for winter. How do you keep it warm when you're not in the van? And the short answer is I don't. The van is always going to be the temperature that it is outside for the most part, unless you have air conditioning or heating. What I do to regulate the temperature is just think about what I'm wearing and cool or heat the van accordingly when I'm in it. I have some thermal pieces that I wear in the winter quite often because they're thin material and I can move around in it without feeling like I'm in something bulky, and it can be cold outside and I'll feel rather toasty inside my van. I will sometimes wear a hat, or if it's really uncomfortable, I'll just put the heat on for a while from the vehicle itself. And with my little nozzle, it'll warm the inside area very quickly. In the summer, I do just the opposite. I'll open up the doors and maybe put a fan on. If it's very uncomfortable, I will put the AC on for a little while just to get that edge off. But it isn't as if, even if you had a heater or an air conditioning unit in your van or RV or car, that you would be running it all the time and have a constant comfortable temperature. It would be very hard, very energy inefficient. And so the easiest thing to do is just to regulate yourself and keep your body warm or cold. You can stay quite comfortable actually. Have you had much of an issue with ground clearance on some of the gravel roads you've encountered? I know our vans, you must have a Transit Connect, are low to the ground. I have not. Actually, for being low to the ground, Transit Connects have a really short behind. So when you go down into ditches like that, it doesn't catch. I have actually been through washes that are quite hilly and seeing a lot of bigger vehicles bottom out, and I haven't yet, so that is a good thing. I don't go off-roading or anything like that, but I've been through some pretty sketchy ground, and yeah, I haven't had a problem with it. Does your bed have a back, or does the mattress just fold up that way? It looks as if it has a back when you sit up. And Melody asks, where did I get the mat for my bed? I have several videos on that. Got it on Amazon. I was looking for tatami mats. It was in a meditation room in my house and I love it. It has a clicking mechanism that it can be in 5 different positions, and it also folds out flat. That's one of the reasons I love this, because I didn't have to figure out a way to make it one of those rock and roll beds. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and I didn't have to have another piece of plywood in here to figure out the back. It is a very thin mattress, but it's a very firm one. So for me, it's perfect. Won't be for everybody, but I love it. How did you attach your cabinets in your van? And what materials did you use? And is Ladybug Out insulated? I attached my cabinets with L brackets. I attached it to the back of the cabinet through a piece of plywood. And is it insulated? No. It has the factory headliner in it already for some reason. As a cargo van, it came with that, which has a little bit of insulation, but I didn't want to mess with it, taking it out and putting something more in it, and I haven't had any problems. I use a lot of fabrics and wool in my van, which helps it to stay pretty warm and not feeling drafty. So I've never had an issue with not being insulated. If money were not an issue and you had to make a choice between what you currently have in a larger van, would you still make the same choice? I struggle with gas mileage, drivability, easy parking, less space, meaning less stuff, versus a large space that could potentially be more livable for full-time, long-term living. It'd be nice to get your viewpoint. I hesitate to answer this because it is such a personal choice and you have to make the decisions based on what your needs and level of comfort are. When I made the choice to get this van, I had asked myself all of those questions along with what my budget was. All of those were important to me. The size has been perfect for one person. I know with two people it might be a little stretch, but I've had 4 people in here just fine. But as a space to live in full time for more than one person, I think it would be a little bit difficult. But if you're just by yourself, this is a really good choice for events. Do you ever get lonely? Also, what are your future goals in life? You know what? I think you can get lonely no matter what. I said it on a panel at Gutted that this whole journey for me has really taught me to love myself, which means that I am in good company with myself. And that has been an important lesson for me. And I rarely get lonely. I think there are times when I miss people. I miss my mom. I'll miss my children and family when I'm away, but I see them and we're good, just like I would if I lived in a house full time. So I don't think it's a question of being in this lifestyle, whether or not you're lonely, if that makes sense. Do you think you will have a pet to travel with you? I have an upcoming video on this, so I will leave that one for now. Rita asks, how are you doing? I hear you hurt your wrist. I enjoy your videos. Prayers for a speedy healing recovery. Safe travels. Hope you get well on the road. Take care. Yes, many of you have asked me about my wrist, and it is in the healing process. And Bonnie, you asked the same question. Thank you. How's the windshield defroster heater holding up in all these colder temperatures, and are you finding you are having to add more blankets to stay warm? Yes, that little defroster heater that my stepdad gave me functions really well. It's actually now used to supplement my little Noggle, and with both of those it gets toasty very fast in here. I still have the same blankets that I've always had. I have the voided blanket, and I do have a down alternative quilted thing that just was a pretty color that I picked up at Target, I think, and that's what I use. You have never mentioned what you do for entertainment when you're forced to stay inside the van because of bad weather. I did actually do a video on that, what I do on rainy days. There's a lot that I can do. Bunny from Bunny Plays here, she knows that I love coloring. I mean, she didn't make this for me, but I got it right away when she said that she had one. I love to do these coloring books. So if you haven't gotten one of her coloring books, go get that now. I do some puzzles. I'll catch up on YouTube or watch a series or something like that. That's how I entertain myself. And being with friends, it's fun to just talk. T's Carta Studio says, I'm thinking about getting a small cargo van like yours. Is there anything you dislike about yours? Also, do you have any advice for a new nomad? I'm planning on trying it this summer. I live in South Dakota, so winter camping isn't an option. I have not found much that I dislike about my van. My advice always is try it first if you can, because you will answer a lot of the questions that you have about this by just trying it out. Even if it's in a car or some vehicle that you already have, go out, even in your driveway or somewhere that you feel safe, and get a feel for what it's like to be in a vehicle instead of a house somewhere. And you learn very quickly what your comfort level is, what you need. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of winter either. Just move where it's warmer. I never noticed that you have an awning. I wanted to get one, but I don't think it can be mounted on my van. How is yours mounted? Actually, the awning that I have is a universal one that I basically plugged in Ford Transit Connect into Amazon and looked for awnings. This one popped up. It's fairly cheap. There are ones out there that cost a lot. This was around maybe $130, $150 or something like that. And I thought that was quite reasonable at the time, especially seeing the more expensive ones. I mounted it on a universal rack that I got because my van did not come with a rack. So through putting my specs of my vehicle in Amazon, it now gives me things that are compatible with the Ford Transit Connect. It looks to me as if there is a designated space on the inside wall of the driver's side to store the tire jack. Is this where you keep your tire jack? If it isn't, where do you store it? And when someone builds out a cargo space and covers that designated space, do you know where they keep their jack? Yeah, this is where it is. So it's right here. if you are designing your van anyway, I would, as much as possible, try to incorporate a way to keep that space available for the jack that you can access it. Without a sink, how do you clean up? How do you clean your pour over coffee or messy dishes? For washing dishes, and this is what I learned from Coralie, but I will use a little spatula like this to clean off any of the food on a bowl or on my fry pan. I usually have one of these composting bags that I'll put food particles and organic waste like that. And then once that is cleaned out, any food particles, I use a solution of hydrogen peroxide and water, 1 part water, 1 part hydrogen peroxide, the same that you just get in a store, 3%. And I use this instead of vinegar. Some people use vinegar, but this I just spray onto the surface and wipe it clean with my bamboo towels here, paper towels that are reusable and washable. And that is how I keep them clean. How does your van do in the snow? It does great. It's one of the reasons that I got this van, because it has front wheel drive and it works well in the sand, which is the same concept. So front wheel drive, I'd have to say it's a good deal. What brand is your kitchen setup? I know you said it was like a little half-size cabinet structure because it was meant for a bathroom. I'm wondering if I can search for a similar idea. Yes, just plug in to Amazon the dimensions you want and it'll give you a whole bunch of things. Some of you may have noticed that I've added these little stick-on tiles. They're shiny because they're a little bit waterproof. I noticed that the top side of this was the only thing I had to be very careful about, keeping it free from water that was standing water for long, which would be one of the only things. If you're looking for a cabinet like this, a wood one would be better. I think if I did it again, that would be something I would look. I love the design of it. That's why I went ahead with it, even though it was pressboard, because it was the exact perfect dimensions and the way the space was laid out and all of that for me. So I've solved the problem by adding those little tiles. Rex Rules Van Life. My question is, when will I get to meet you and Bunny? Anytime. I'm heading to Oregon. Hopefully I will see you up there. I think Gina from Van Life with Gina is having a meetup, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to try to make it there. How are you handling condensation? I have not had a problem with condensation. I do not understand why that is. It may be that I am just not in very humid climates. I really don't know. I was very worried about that issue. I think ventilation and mainly not being in cold, damp climates helps. I will let you know if that does become a problem when I'm in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon. This is our first winter in our van, and we are pretty new to all this, and honestly, it's a bit overwhelming. We are in Kingman, Arizona. Where would you suggest we go from here? Again, it's really hard to know how to answer that because everybody is so different, and it just depends. What activities do you enjoy? What are you looking to do? Are you wanting to be alone? Are you wanting to be with others? All of those things will answer that question for you. So first thing I'd do is just sit down and discuss what those expectations are for each of you, and that should help you a lot. There are apps like iOverlander and Free Roam that help you find spots. And then asking around, if you do go to some of these events, or if you're camping and you see others, ask them if they have heard of anything. There are channels that talk a lot about things to do in certain areas. Bunny, one of the reasons I love her channel is that she goes everywhere and she sees a lot of things and will make suggestions on what to see, where to go, and how to do it. So that is a good resource. And there are other channels like that too. Karen Blake, you ask, how has YouTube changed your journey and how is it being well known? Well, I would argue that I am well known, but it is interesting. I always enjoy when people see my van and they recognize it, or they see me and they go, oh, Ladybug out. You have no idea. I'm just as excited as you are when you do that. So don't ever hesitate if you see me. I am just me. I'm Dee, and I started this journey on YouTube to help other people like me who were contemplating this and maybe were scared, and people told me that hearing my story inspired them. So that's why I'm doing this. But otherwise, I'm just doing it because this is what I was going to do anyway. And I have a good pace for myself. Posting once a week on Saturdays gives me time to enjoy what I'm doing and still get that type of work done. So far, it's been okay. What percentage of time do you live in your van versus your house? Do you still work remotely while you're on the road? And is YouTube income enough to quit your other job? YouTube supplements my income, but it fluctuates a lot. In the past few years, a couple businesses that I have had to shut down. So that has been a little bit of an issue for me. I still have a nonprofit that gives me a little bit of an income, but again, it's a nonprofit, it's not much. And so between YouTube and that, it supplements what I have. And this lifestyle does keep a lot of expenses down for me. I don't have to pay for another house or an apartment or something like that. So it actually is saving me money in the long run, I think. And I am really grateful for those of you who are watching, because when you watch my channel, that does help. My Patreons, you have no idea. You guys help a lot with some expenses that I've had. And for anybody who's interested in a one-time donation or something like that, I did set up a PayPal me account. That also helps out a lot. So thank you to those who have given in that way. It means more than you know, actually. So thank you so much. Does your van have enough power to go to the mountains? I had that very same question until I got to the mountains and went up some very steep hills. And I have to say, for a little 2-liter engine, she holds her own. And I think it's like with any car, it'll struggle a little bit to get up there. But actually, I've been surprised with how well it manages up and down hills. Are you keeping your heart open for love, or are you done with all that? Hey, my heart is always open. That said, I am very happy and fulfilled right now in who I am. I am always open for joyful companionship. I get that a lot. You see me with the people that found each other and have enjoyed each other's company as we kind of ebb and flow into each other's paths. And for me, that has been a really wonderful thing and very healing. Are there any logistical challenges with the van and the ways you live in it, big or small, that you still haven't found an appropriate long-term solution for? The only logistical challenge I had so far was what just happened with my wrist. I think it's the first time I really couldn't function in my van. I couldn't fold out my bed. I couldn't cook. I couldn't even zip my jacket or get in and out of my clothes without spending about an hour to try to do it because I was in so much pain. Bunny was saying, ladybug out down, ladybug out down. And yes, I am down, but not out. It is going to be quite a time for this to really heal, where I feel strong enough and can function well. Even driving was an issue because this is my dominant hand, my left hand. So that's the only problem that I've found so far. Bart, you say, are there any changes you would like to make to your van? If so, why? If anybody doesn't know, Bart, he has a new channel about van life, so go check him out. But to answer your question, the biggest ones that I did was the orientation of my bed here. And I did do a video about the 5 things I think that I changed about my van. And this is the biggest one, of having my setup be this way so that it leaves all of this space over there free to feel like I'm in a little room. So that is really the only thing that stands out to me about what I would change. So how do you deal with dust and dirt in the desert? I have some area rugs that I use. One that I use outside that is from IKEA. It's a really thin thing. It shakes off and washes really well. That does a lot of good. I can put it inside or outside, and a lot of the dust and dirt just stays on that. Contrary to what people think, having an area rug or carpeting in the van makes it seem, I guess, that it's a lot cleaner. It may not be a lot cleaner, but you don't see it. I don't have to be sweeping all the time. I will vacuum if I get a spill on it or something like that, but it really is actually much easier to manage than I think a floor would be. I don't know. I haven't really had the other, but I can shake out my area rugs. I can deep clean my carpet when I need to. It doesn't really get that dirty. And it doesn't feel that dirty to me, even in between cleanings. Are you full-time now? I know when you first started out, you had a home base. I'm on the East Coast, not really that much BLM land here. I do still share a base camp space. There's not much BLM land in the Midwest either. I did challenge myself this last summer to stay around there to investigate where I could stay that would be closer to my kids. and I have found some good choices doing that. And again, I moved into this van so that I would have a place to stay rather than look for an apartment or a house or something like that. And it has by far been the best decision I have ever made. How do you go to the bathroom in that little container when most people can't even do it in a full-size toilet without making a mess? Well, short of actually sitting on my toilet and showing you the anatomy of all that I do, I just really have good aim, I guess. I don't know what to say. I got good at squatting, I guess, when I lived in Bolivia and had to squat over a latrine hole. Can you or anyone do van life, SUV camping part-time? I work full-time, not a position that can be remote, but I have weekends and vacation days. I was actually talking to some people and was saying how weird it is that we make that distinction when people are in van life and ask, are you in it full time? We don't ask anybody who lives in a house, are you full time in your house? I have met people who have been in every type of vehicle, every type of situation. You go for it and you'll probably love it. And Vicki Fisher, you said you were curious about how many states I've been to in my travels. And I have to say, I have been to every one of the contiguous states in the United States except for Maine. And I have not been to Alaska, which I may be planning a trip to Alaska. And Hawaii, if I can figure out how to get my van over there, I would love to go to Hawaii. But it has not all been in my van. I have been a nomad at heart from the time I was very small, and that's probably why I went into the type of work that I do. So yes, I have been to a lot of places, and I will leave it on that note. Like so many other people who do this, I think if you are not able to see the beauty of this country, it's something that either through people who are doing this kind of thing, or if you can ever get out to explore somewhere, it's really a wonderful thing. We live in a very beautiful country and hope to keep it that way, right? I hope you have enjoyed hearing the answers to some of your questions. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.